Actually, I want to put blue. I'll make it typical. The improvement from my surfaces. Then I put my palm here. The touch part cancels, and it just writes. I'm gonna abbreviate that IGR. This is the maximum growth rate achievable. It doesn't mean you're necessarily going at that rate, grow at that rate, achievable, using only internal resources. You know, you make some money, you may distribute some of it, but you keep some of it. So using that part you keep, you can invest into stuff and grow. And formula for IGR is, I'm gonna do this, minus A, okay? And here's what A is. Because these are similar formulas. A is ROA times B. B is 1 minus dividend payout ratio. The reason I wrote it like that, you can also write A, if you solve it, GR over 1 plus it. Sometimes I may give you the growth rate and ask you to figure out the internal assets associated with that. But that starts with solving for A first. And since I can, I'm gonna also go fancy on it. I love this computer. The only disappointment is it's not 16 inches, but they gave me the wrong one. The right memory with 16 inches was about $500 more expensive than this. It said I can live with 14. I actually bought this for about 900. That's one I sent back was about 1200, but only 16 gig memory. For example, suppose, let me zoom this. I forgot how I zoom this. Here. Suppose you have an ROA of 10%, remember return on assets. This is DPR. It's not Democratic Republic of Congo. Suppose dividend payout ratio is 30%. That means for every dollar you get as net income, you distribute 30 cents as dividends. That means our fee is 70%. This is also known as the retention ratio. For every dollar of net income, you retain 70 cents inside your company. And what is IGR? Well, what is A? 10% times 70%, which is 0.07, okay? So IGR equals 0.07. Of course, you know I'm gonna use it's just my calculator. That means this firm will grow at 7.53%. if they were to use only internal resources, which means they're not going to issue new equity and they're not going to have more debt. They'll use whatever money they have. The next one we're going to do is called sustainable growth rates. And we're going to abbreviate that to SGR. As you may have guessed, this is based on, I'm going to call that A, 1 minus A, or let's call this something. Let's call this big B, 1 minus B. And that small b is still the retention ratio. Of course, if you want to solve for b, I'm going to now first let's explain what sustainable growth rate is. Maximum growth rate achievable using internal or external resources, which means you are allowed to issue new equity or you are allowed to borrow new monies, provided that that equity ratio remains the same. Suppose you have a debt equity ratio for every dollar you borrowed 50 cents, right? If you issue $1 of new equity, this hypothetical exercise says you also have to borrow it. Otherwise, that equity ratio must remain the same. The ratio of the old debt to old equity should be the same as the ratio of the new debt to new equity. Suppose, switch to black. Suppose company wants a sustainable growth rate of 10%. And that ROE equals, actually, let me ask you different. Yeah, let's say that ROE equals 12%. What EPR will guarantee the SGR of 10%. Okay. Output sustainable growth rate, but I don't know one of the inputs. Of course, my little goal seeker will take care of that, but we can easily do that with algebra. Even that I put that in here. So I know what SGR is, okay? Oh, that's fancy pen. Some blue. More like teal. But what is VPR? Well, dividend payout ratio, by definition, is 1 minus the retention ratio. So if I could figure out what the retention ratio should be, I'm home, right? Well, first things first, remember B is, cap B is ROE times retention ratio. I know the ROE. So if I could figure out what that cap B should be, I can figure out what the retention ratio should be. But I already have the formula for that. So that's 10% divided by 1 plus 10%. I'm just going to go ahead and do it on my phone. Why? Because I can. That's a continuing fraction. That literally means that's 10 over or 100 over, no, 0.1 over 9. 1 over 9, I'm sorry. Regardless of that, then B is cap P divided by ROE. It's not too surprising that it is indeed equal to 0.90 or 90.91%. So a retention ratio of 90.91% gives me a sustainable growth rate of 10%. Then that means my DPR is going to be 9.09%.